practical realities of running a small city include budgets, road repairs, and public safety. It's work that rarely makes headlines, but shapes daily life for residents. The city of Brook Park, with just under 20,000 residents, is like many small cities in the area, with one major exception. It's the home for the new Browns Stadium. Our guest today, Ed Orcutt, has taken the spotlight as Brook Park's mayor and a force behind much of the city's recent growth and development. Whether it's an indoor pool or the Browns football stadium, his leadership efforts blend small-town pride with big-picture progress. Good morning, Ed.
Good morning, Armond.
Do you mind if I call you Ed?
Oh, that's fine. I've been called Ed my whole life.
Okay. So you're the mayor of Brook Park, and in the eye of the storm, so to speak, you're in the center of all kinds of activity. The Browns are building their new stadium there. How did that come about? Did you solicit them, or did they come to you?
It's a kind of a funny story in our family that my wife's cousin was listening to the radio and listened to the ownership talk about renovations or possibly building a new stadium. At that point, I received a message from him and said, hey, maybe this could happen in our city. And I texted back and I said, let me reach out to the Haslam's and see if they're interested. And so it's a kind of a funny story, but I had one phone call to the developer, and then from there, there was a conversation with the president of the Cleveland Browns back in March of 2023, which led up to a conversation with Jimmy and Dee Haslam. And then from there, we understood that we were just an option B, while they worked through keeping the Cleveland Browns downtown.
You knew that you had enough space in Brook Park to plant the team and whatever else developments that the Haslams wanted to do?
Well, we knew what the current stadium acreage was. It was on something like 30-some acres, and we had about 176 acres for redevelopment in the city of Brook Park.
Okay, so the Haslams are building this enclosed stadium, and there'll be a handful of Browns games at home. What else do you see happening in Brook Park?
We see a lot of events. We see a building that'll be able to be utilized 12 months out of the year, not just for a fraction of the year like we have today. I see entertainers coming here, and I see e-gaming championships and other events that we'll be able to host, not only because we have a dome football stadium, but because we have adequate parking in and around that stadium.
So the stadium, since it's enclosed, can host a lot of things all year round.
Absolutely.
And do you have, you mentioned esports, and what else do you see coming to the stadium?
Well, the more events that we can have, and obviously, the Cleveland Browns Haslam Sports Group, those events will be marketed by Haslam Sports Group to be able to get all those events in here. But the idea that we have to be able to have as a realization on this whole program is the more shows that we do have, it provides us with an opportunity on that investment that's being made by the state, by the city of Brook Park, and the Haslam Sports Group. And for example, what I mean by that is this. Everybody knows about the famous $600 million of unclaimed funds, which is a performance grant. It's one that I believe in. I think it's very smart. I think it's a great opportunity for us to be able to generate.
That's what the state legislature is providing for Brook Park.
Absolutely. So as their investment comes into building this dome stadium, and we can have more events, that means that those events are able to generate more tax dollars in sales tax, CAT tax, income tax, and those dollars go back to Columbus, and it will be a greater amount than what's actually going to Columbus today.
And it's effectively a loan, the $600 million,
Absolutely.
if I understand.
Yes, it's a performance loan.
And they're going to be paid back by these taxes.
Absolutely. It's projected over 16 years it will be paid back with interest, so they'll gain money from there. And then instead of having anywhere from 10 to 13 events in the stadium that they currently have now, they'll hopefully be able to have 50 plus events, which 18 to 20 of them will be major events with full capacity.
In addition to the events in the stadium, Are there events and things going to go on around the stadium?
Well, we do have a mixed-use area, which will be a hotel, a very nice hotel. It's also going to be apartments and then retail as well. So it may not be an evening for an event, but we hope to have visitors in our community that will be shopping and going to the restaurants that will be there.
So they have some sort of saying that they're going to invest over $2 billion in this project. Is that right?
Well, obviously there's a public investment. Okay. And I'm not going to get into what Brook Parks is because we don't negotiate publicly, but I think everybody knows that there's been some numbers floating around $300 million from the city of Brook Park, and there's also $600 million from the state. So aside from those dollars, the rest is going to be a private investment. Total about $3.6 billion. $2.6 billion into the stadium and about approximately $1 billion that'll be invested into the mixed-use area.
When was the last time the Cuyahoga County had a $3.6 billion investment anywhere in the county?
I believe this is the first of its kind. From what I understand, it's the largest project in the history of Northeast Ohio.
It's pretty exciting.
Or one of.
Mm-hmm. Pretty exciting.
It is. It's very exciting. It's about, retaining jobs, and it's about creating new jobs. And I think you know better than anyone that as leaders, we should always look for great opportunities. And this one is just a phenomenal opportunity to be able to have, the Huntington Bank Field and the Cleveland Browns coming to our community.
So there will be lots of bars and restaurants going up around this stadium. Are those bars and restaurants going to be new, or are they going to be pulled from the city downtown?
So the whole site is going to be redeveloped. Right now, it's nothing. When I first became mayor in 2022, we were able to work with the developer, obtain a grant, a brownfield grant for $10 million, and we were able to remove what was known as Ford Motor Manufacturing Plant Number 2. They still have plant number 1 there. They still produce just under 800,000 motors a year, which is the largest motor manufacturing facility for Ford in North America. But we were able to eliminate that and raise that building. And what we're doing is starting from scratch. Everything will be brand new, a brand new hotel, brand new apartments, and restaurants and different things for people to be able to visit and be entertained.
So do you think that these will be new restaurants and bars, or will they come from downtown?
At this point right now, I don't know if they'll come from downtown, but if you ask me, does this Dome Stadium hurt downtown Cleveland? I would say that I think it's going to help enhance downtown and the opportunities for people to come to Cleveland and visit. Again, it's tied to the parking spaces. As we can go out there and solicit and try to bring in big entertainers, what we're going to do is we're going to attract people from out of state. A lot of data and a lot of research has been done by the city of Brook Park and myself. Billy Joel just visited the area. When he was here at Huntington Bank Field on the lake, we were able to see through digital sales that over 53% of the people that came here came from out of state. So if we have the ability to be able to host a lot of these events, what we're going to see is people coming and visitors coming to our region. We certainly cannot be able to host all those people into our hotels. We see a vast amount of people coming to the region, staying in downtown, and being able to utilize the restaurants that are down there and the hotels that are down there.
So you believe that this project is going to actually help downtown?
I believe it's going to help the entire region.
And you're aware that that Dan Gilbert's group is putting in another $1 billion or $2 billion into the riverfront downtown. So that'll help, I assume.
I agree. And I think the more that we work together is how we'll get the job done and keep this a positive area for people to live and retire.
So I have to ask you, why isn't the county supporting this project?
I can only speak from my office and from my desk. for what would work for our community. I believe that the county executive, obviously, he has the ability to operate his office in the most efficient way that he can and will. And for those reasons there, I would leave that question for County Executive Chris Ronayne to answer.
Okay, I won't go any further on that question, but it's a little bit surprising that the county is opposing the project when, as you said, it's the biggest project Northeast Ohio's ever had. So a lot of investment coming into town.
It is, and what I'll say about this is, it's about what you put in and what you can get out. So if somebody asked us, the city of Brook Park, hey, go invest X, but you're only going to get out Y, which is not much of a return or may not be anything at all, that's what you have to look at. This is a numbers game. For us in Brook Park, we see it as an opportunity to be able to reinvest into a piece of property that has been there before we were even incorporated as a city. And we're excited about that. We see a great opportunity. We see a great opportunity for a return on our investment, and that works for us. Everybody else that is being asked or part of this, that is a question that they'll have to be able to, answer for themselves. And if you follow the county's budget, you can see that there's some challenges.
You mentioned, you said you wouldn't project what the city of Brook Park's putting into the project, but the numbers have been around $300 million. Mm-hmm. How does a small city like Brook Park come up with $300 million plus, is that in addition to the money that's going to have to be paid back on the $600 million that the state's giving you?
Mm-hmm. Creative arithmetic. Creative arithmetic. You have to make sure that there's, an opportunity for us to be able to generate that money. And then obviously Brook Park will have to make sure that there's some guarantees, because there is risk. And there's risk for, the Haslams. There's risk for the city of Brook Park. There's risk for the state of Ohio. But again, it's one thing that we have to do is take advantage of the opportunity that we have had with the Haslam Sports Group and their affiliates. They're going to invest, billions of dollars into our region. It's one that we should be sitting down at the table and making sure that we don't lose this opportunity. And I'll just say that everybody that's been part of this project and working together behind the scenes has been nothing but professional, and it's going to be a job creator. It's about job retention. And when we have to think long-term as leaders, if we were to lose an asset like the Cleveland Browns, like we did back in 1995, mm-hmm. we lose jobs. When we lose jobs, you lose population. And we lose population, who's there to pay for all the upgrades to the infrastructure that we have or help take care of our schools? So the way I look at this is a long-term investment that's going to be able to help generate more revenue, creating jobs, keeping the population where it's going, and hopefully not declining.
That's something to look forward to. Now, Brook Park is a pretty small city. This is big project, a lot of money. How will Brook Park cope with the traffic issues, additional if there's crime issues, the other things that come with a project this size?
Mm-hmm. Well, we have to make new investments. We'll have to make sure that we do things with more automation than the classic way of operating things. One thing is that we have changed with is that we can put cameras up everywhere. And that will certainly make us be able to understand where there may be issues with when it comes to traffic. But before we go into that and what we're talking about to be able to help automate our operations, is I'd like to talk a little bit about how Ford Motor Company made who Brook Park is today. So they came here a long time ago, back in the late 40s, purchased 450 acres, and then ramped up, had 2 plants and a foundry there, And basically, we incorporated off of that back in early 1960s. So with that said, what followed was great infrastructure. We have Interstate 480 to the north that borders essentially the property, Interstate 71 to the east, Snow Road to the south. To the west is Route 237 and the airport, and just south of Snow Road by a few miles is the Turnpike. So we were already in a good position. And why was that infrastructure there? It was there for Ford. We had to get 800,000 motors in and out of the parts in there and the motors out. We had 16,000 employees at Ford Motor Company
Wow.
for decades. Back in 2012, they were able to fully automate out. We went from 16,000 employees to 1,600 to 1,800, somewhere around there. So when we have 1/10 of the workforce there, we still are pumping out the same amount of motors, but when you go down 1/10, you still have these very good infrastructure bones that are there. What we're looking to do is about $80 million in upgrades on top of that to be able to make us more efficient than what we are today on a non-event day. But let me clarify something, that when it comes to an event day in any major city, and we've been around the different stadiums throughout the country, what we see is anywhere from 2 to 2.5 hours prior to the event, you do have congestion. So one thing I haven't been doing for the residents of Brook Park is sugarcoating this. You know, we tell people, plan ahead, you know, treat it like a snowstorm. Go to the grocery store the day before. I wouldn't plan on going to the grocery store at 11:30 when there's a 1 o'clock kickoff in Brook Park. Back to how do we handle it? Well, we can't just double all of our employees and go from 140 employees to 280 so that we can administer 18 to 20 major events a year. What we will do is we'll have a build-up where we need to in police, fire, and in service, and obviously our tax department, our finances, and all of that stuff. We'll build up to that. But we're going to probably apply the same application of operations that every major city has, and currently that they have here in Cleveland, where inside the curb where the stadium is, that will be managed by the Haslam Sports Group. And then outside the curb, what we'll do is we are coming up with a management plan that will be able to have a regular shift on police, for example. They're going to be there just taking care of the day-to-day operations in the city, and then we'll make sure that we'll have enough people to come in on overtime. After beefing up the department some, what we'll do is we'll have enough people to come in, make sure they're all at the areas that they need to be able to make that sure that traffic flow is right. And then on top of that, we will have a few other groups that'll be ready to respond to any of the extracurricular activities that may not be welcome.
All right. One of the great features of the current stadium and the current Browns location is the tailgate party. Will Brook Park be able to host a great tailgate like Cleveland has done?
I don't think we have a choice. We've already met with the two mayors of the Muni lot, Larry and Larry, and they are adamant that they want to be able to make sure that that tradition stays there. And me being a big football fan, I understand that Cleveland's traditions are like no other. I think Buffalo and Cleveland have a lot of the same traditions when it comes to tailgating, and what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that we satisfy the needs of the fans.
All right. The maintenance of the new stadium. The current maintenance is paid by the sin tax. It's split between the Browns, the Cavaliers, and the Guardians. This county is saying that they don't want the sin tax to go to the Browns Stadium in Brook Park. How will the stadium be maintained?
Well, I think the state may dictate something different on that. So I think that there may be another way that that's going to work. But let's understand, why are we in the position that we are today? Is because that wasn't properly managed. The sin tax that came along in the 90s to build the Guardian Stadium and the Cavaliers arena, that that was nice. It was an upgrade from what we had. And then obviously we had that emergency e-stop that we hit in 1995 where we had to get an expansion team back. We had to get the colors back and then build a stadium. We did a great job, I think, as leaders locally on a lot of things, but the one thing that we never thought of is inflation. And the sin tax just wasn't set up to be successful. And there wasn't enough money coming in to be able to make those repairs. So the thing that we do today in working on the development agreement is making sure that it's essential that we do not make that mistake again. Now, you will see me out there when it comes to protecting an investment. When it comes to the sin tax, it's essential for the region to be able to utilize that. It's important that there's upgrades at Progressive Field. It's necessary and essential that we have upgrades at the Rocket Mortgage. We have to protect these assets and making sure that they are drawing in a positive cash flow for the region. So we are working on that internally to make sure that there is opportunities that will protect that stadium and the asset that will be within Brook Park. And then, of course, we will definitely have to be able to talk to the region and the residents of the region and say, how do you want to move forward? The one thing that I think is very important when we talk about pro sports in Cleveland, that they all developed at a time where Cleveland had the market for it. If we were to start off with Major League Baseball and NBA and the NFL tomorrow, Cleveland doesn't have the market, the population, the demand to be able to have one of those assets.
You mentioned that the sin tax, when it was created, wasn't enough, and that's absolutely true. When I came into county executive, we had to look at renewing the sin tax, and I agreed to do it, but it was not enough. And we knew that there was going to be a problem down the road with maintenance and repairs. It wasn't enough money. So,
if it's something that we need to help survive and keep these assets here, then one thing that we have to think about is the inflation portion of it. It never changed from 1990 through the second advancement of sin tax, which happened in 2014 for the maintenance. And that equals about just a little bit less than $5 million per pro team as it is. And as you know, it just wasn't enough. It was the same tax that started off originally on a pack of cigarettes all the way up to a gallon of liquor. And every time that there was an extension on that sin tax, there was never a change on the actual tax. So 4.5 pennies on a pack of cigarettes, all the way up to $3 on a gallon of liquor, that never changed when it was extended in 95 or in 2014. And we all know that a 2x4 doesn't cost the same today as it did back in 1990. And
we certainly know gasoline doesn't cost the same.
It certainly doesn't. And a penny back in 1990 is not worth the same penny that it is in 2026.
Switching gears for a second, have you had, I'm sure you have had conversations with your neighboring mayors, communities like Brook Park surround you, and they're going to be impacted for good and for bad by all the development that's going to go on in Brook Park. How do you deal with that?
Well, transparency. You've got to be able to meet and have those discussions. We had 3 roundtable meetings set up at the Haslam Sports Group where I've had the mayors and managers of Cuyahoga County, not just the ones that are adjacent to the city of Brook Park. Everyone in Cuyahoga County has been invited to meetings to be able to discuss this because, of course, I want to hear from my colleagues. Is there something that we're missing? Let's throw all the ideas onto the conference table. We've had great dialogue there. And then we've had open houses and town hall meetings. So I continue to have those where the adjacent cities are showing up, mayors, residents, they're coming to Brook Park to understand and learn a little bit more. I'm working very closely with a wonderful mayor in Middleburg Heights, Mayor Costelli, working with Mayor Bibb. His team and I have been working together closely for almost a year now when it comes to traffic for the airport and what will be at the Dome Stadium. So we've had a lot of dialogue. We do have some operational things that we will execute and do together. And one of them, I think, is definitely going to be one that will be a reality, is that the city of Brook Park and Middleburg Heights will be within our command center that we build, and a camera system will be integrated.
Well, this is very exciting, I have to say. I mean, whether it's in Cleveland or Brook Park or Timbuktu, I mean, here we've got a multi-billion-dollar project going into Northeast Ohio that can't help but have very positive ramifications for the area. I mean, it's just bigger investment than we've seen. So I'm thrilled that you're shepherding us this through, and I think the project's in good hands, and I appreciate your coming on our show today and talking about it.
Well, thank you, Armond. It was my pleasure. Appreciate you.
Good. I appreciate you too. Thank you very much. Thanks for joining us today. And this has been the Newsmakers Show. Thank you for joining us.